What's going on, everyone? Justin here with the Podcast Dojo, and as you can see, I'm not alone. I'm here with
Ray.
Alright, so today we're both going to be covering an abandoned place. Today we're going to be talking about Dixie Square Mall up in Illinois. Yes, Illinois. You've never done one of these with me before. So any words before we jump into this?
Well, I'm pretty excited to learn a little bit more about this mall. I usually do the comic books review, but it's very interesting to me, to have the opportunity to be with you and, analyze this mall.
Awesome. So this Dixie Square Mall, I didn't even really hear about it too much till I did the Walnut Mall, where everyone kept saying, oh, if they didn't demolish the Walnut Mall, Dixie Square Mall was what it would have been. So I had to look into it since everyone kept bringing it up. Alright, well, let's not waste any more time and go over to Harvey, Illinois.
Dixie Square Mall opened up on August 31st, 1966, with Montgomery Wards as the first anchor and 36 stores. The mall was built on top of Dixie High Golf Club and only 20 miles from downtown Chicago.
In November of 1966, the mall had opening celebrations including performances by Homer and Jeffro, Art Hodes, and Sid Sakowitz, and even Ned Locke of Bozo's Circus Show.
There were 60 stores by 1968, including 2 more encores were added, as well as JCPenney, Woolworth, Walgreens, Turnstile, and Jewel Supermarket.
What's interesting about this mall is they were open until 9:30 p.m. Monday through Friday and closed at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. The mall was closed on Sunday for a day of rest, although Ward's, Jewel, and JCPenney's did limited hours on those days. So that was just the foundation of the mall. This is where we get to the good stuff starting now. Starting with the crime. And remember all the crime that was in the Rolling Acres video?
Yeah, I think we all remember that.
Yes, well, the stuff that happens here is going to make that place seem like Disney World.
Crap.
Well, let's get in it.
The crime hit in early 70s, starting with robberies. A disco club was built to try to lure away the crime. In 1972, a woman was shot in a botched robbery attempt in November of that year near the mall. On April 20, 1973, another mall guest was shot and killed in a robbery on the mall property itself. On July 17, 1973, a teenage girl was lured away from the mall by 3 other teenage girls only to be strangled to death.
In 1976, there were renovations due to the mall and even changed the name to just Dixie Mall, but the high levels of crime knocked the mall down to only 20 stores by its final year in 1978. 2 anchor stores left as well, Montgomery Ward in 1976 and Turnstile in 1978. JCPenney's would leave in 1978 only to reopen in 1979 to get rid of the outdated merchandise with a sale called Dixie's Last Gap. Even mannequins and display cases were sold off. 2 months before Walgreens closed, the mall was used as a temporary school for 2 years while Harvey built a new school, with various stores being used as classrooms and Turnstile was used as a gymnasium.
In the summer of 1979, John Landis wanted to use the mall for the chase scene in The Blues Brothers and was granted permission as long as he cleaned up the site afterwards. Some stores, however, did not want their names in the movie. Walgreens became Toys R Us, for example. However, John Landis did not clean up the site, leaving $87,000 in property damage. Dixie School attempted to sue Universal for the damage, but this never happened as the district would vacate the property.
Some crazy stuff happened, so what do you think about all this?
Yeah, well, it's actually pretty sad to see, such a large business as a mall just to, have crime like that, I don't know. It kind of sort of reminds me of I know I can't compare it to Cloverleaf Mall, which is another video that you guys should check out in this channel that Justin did on Cloverleaf Mall right here in Richmond, Virginia. The violence over there, according to what you said, it was bad, but this sounds even worse. It's really sad to see how an area can become like so crime oriented.
And based on the time, in the 60s it was good, and then as got into the 70s it got bad. So I think that's when you started having more drug use in this country.
Yeah.
And I think that contributed a lot to it.
I feel like that's when a lot of the drugs, more drugs, different drugs, rather, besides marijuana were introduced.
Like heavy stuff.
Like heavy stuff. So that's when you actually start seeing other type of drugs in the United States. So yeah, it was a time where there was a lot more crime, and as we can see, I mean, yeah, that's really what messed up that mall too.
And while it is a disco club, I do find it funny that a club was built to bring away crime, because you see so many clubs linked to, or crimes linked to clubs.
What the hell were they thinking of? Well, like, oh, we just have, we've been having some crime over here. Let's just open a club. What the hell is that? Who does that?
It's like using honey to keep bees away.
Right? Jesus.
So, before we go on to the next thing, we are going to show you that famous chase scene from the Blues Brothers, just a little bit with no sound to avoid copyright, but that mall got wrecked.
Yeah, $87,000 in the property damage.
And this was after it closed, so they just made it look nice just to wreck it again.
God, yeah.
Well, here's the clip. The ownership of the mall was switched to the town of Harvey, but they did not have the funds to maintain the mall. This is where the vandals started to ransack the mall and even stealing every bit of scrap metal that was worth reselling. In 1985, the Ward's repair shop was demolished and made into a Harvey police station. The crime continued to grow so bad that even a juvenile court was built on the west wing of the parking lot.
The first of 3 fires, and the worst one, broke out in Woolworths in the mid-2000s, destroying almost the entire mall. Another fire broke out in former City Lounge with only minor damage. The fire department spent 3 hours trying to put out the fire. But in the early 90s, the mall became even worse. The homeless were living in vacant stores. Gangs and drug dealers were using the mall as a hideout. In 1993, a woman was assaulted and strangled outside the mall.
Alright, so usually I do the what if scenarios in these videos, and what we just talked about made me think of that. And what if the police station had always been at the mall? Do you think it may have been a better area?
I mean, it could have been a better area. I mean, it would have definitely prevented, a lot of the things. Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the day, a bad area is a bad area. Like, for example, one of the things I used to do at some time was property management. Mm-hmm. While the property that I used to work was not really that bad, mm-hmm. there were other properties that we knew that were pretty bad. Yes, they did have security. Yes, they did have everything, but that did make them better up a little bit. It wasn't that big of a change, because there was stuff going on anyways. Even if it was hidden, if people were just hiding and trying to do other stuff, drugs, hiding, and stuff like that. It's not like you're gonna have the police all the time looking at people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And just going to be there at the right time to spot certain things. So.
Well, I think it still, like you said, would have been bad. I think the mall still would have died because of the crime. But I think if it had been there since day one, I think a lot of that stuff in the 70s, like the girl being strangled behind the mall, I don't think any of that would have happened. Mm-hmm. Or at least wouldn't have been as likely to happen.
Yeah,
but as you said, a bad area is a bad area.
Yeah.
In 2005, plans were made to turn the old Montgomery Ward's building into a showroom for American Kitchen Delight. The YMCA was going to use the rest of the mall for a senior living facility. I really do have to ask the question, it could not have been a good idea to put a senior living facility in a bad neighborhood.
Jesus. What were they thinking?
Yeah, let's take these poor defenseless elderly people that need assisted living, put them in an area where people are getting shot and strangled and murdered.
I'm telling you, I don't know, first thing was the club, to lure down the violence and the crime. Mm-hmm. What were they thinking? And now just a place where the elderly stay. Why would you do that? I don't get it. So many poor decisions, and the crime, is really what made this mall go down.
Absolutely. I don't know how much longer it would have lasted past the 70s, but it wouldn't have been much longer after that.
I don't think so.
Well, luckily for them, these plans never happened, as it was discovered the mall had asbestos and any plans were halted until they were removed. On top of the asbestos problem, it was discovered that the mall demolition had started without permission and destroyed part of Montgomery wards by accident. This was halted because the mayor just happened to be driving by at the right time and stopped it personally. In 2006, the mall was sold to John Deneen of Emerald Property Group. Montgomery wards was finally demolished as a publicity stunt, but the rest of the mall was left untouched.
Liens were placed along the mall by several investors. John threatened one of the liens with brass knuckles and a firearm. He was charged later with aggravated assault with a weapon and failure to remove the asbestos. In 2009, the third fire broke out near JCPenney, burning most of the building. The fires, I can only assume, were the result of arsonists. In 2010, plans were finally made to demolish the mall and replace it with big box stores.
In the same year, Governor Pat Quinn gave a grant of $4 million to demolish the mall, with an additional $1 million from an emergency fund that was from a flood in 2008. The mall was finally demolished in 2012 over the course of 5 months and still since vacant, waiting development. Alright, well everyone, that was Dixie Square Mall. It was pretty interesting. So, now that you've done the first abandoned video with me, what do you think?
Well, I think it's very interesting. You not only get to learn about this mall a little bit, but you also get to see how the area where these malls are located, how good they are, and especially learn the reasons how this business got destroyed, and show us that sometimes crime and bad areas can really determine whether our business is going to work or not. So it's very interesting to hear about these abandoned venues.
And I love doing the theories where it's like, what if we change one little aspect? Could it still be there? And if it is, how is it? Or would it still just be doomed to fail?
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you for joining me.
No problem, man.
Found it. Alright, so everyone, as usual, be sure to give a rating, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, and hit that bell button. This is Justin.
And Ray.
Signing out. Was it
You're doing that.
Don't be. Alright, so I always do the what if scenarios in these, and some notes that I had in there made me think of this. You better.
Stop thinking about that.
Yeah,
man.
So, I always do the what if scenarios in here, and
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What are you laughing, bro?